So we talk a lot about music licensing on this channel. TV, film, ads, and then I casually mention gaming as an add-on. Well, not today. Today we talk with the video game composing man himself, Stephen Melin of the Video Game Music Alliance. And he tells us why composing and producing in 2024 is just as healthy as it's ever been. In fact, did you know the average yearly income for a freelance video game music and sound designer is $80,000 a year? This may be a criminally overlooked area of music income that we are all missing out on. Have we looked into this? Well, we're going to look into it today as we talk composing and producing music for video games as a serious income with Stephen Melin. Welcome to the Make Music Income podcast. We talk about the constantly changing world of music income, including music licensing, music distribution, and marketing, music royalties, being a music producer, music teaching, sheet music, church music, really any kind of way we can find to make music income. That's what we talk about on this podcast. My name is Eric Copeland, and I have been working full-time for over 30 years as a composer, an arranger, producer, and many other things. This show is sponsored today by the new Getting in Sync course. That's right, it's out. And do you know we even have a class that you can take alongside the course? Course is online, but you can come to a free Zoom class. That's right, I said free. Free Zoom class that's part of the course if you buy it now at its lowest price. It meets every week, and I go through the course module by module and also take questions and kind of maybe even talk more about some of the things that I'm talking about in the course. And so you get even more information. You can find out about this program and everything else we have at makemusicincome.com/learn. Just go there and you'll be able to find all of our free and our paid ebooks, our courses, our one-on-one coaching. It's all there. Check out the link in the description or just go to makemusicincome.com/learn and learn. As always, I hope this podcast and all my channels and sites help you make the music you love and make music income. And now let's get to our interview with Stephen Melin. Well, man, it is so great to be here back with you again, talking for our semi-yearly chat. You know, we haven't, I don't know if you know, but we haven't talked since beginning of 2022. So it's been like almost 2 years since we've caught up here on the channel. And what has been happening in 2022? I know that's a big subject, but last time we talked, I do have my notes here from last time we talked. And, you know, we talked about how you made income. We talked about your passive and your active income. I call them passive and active. Passive is stuff that just comes in because you put it out there and you just wait for it to come in. And then active is work for clients and things like that. Last time it was about 60-40 active to passive, like you were doing 60% active work for clients or whoever, and then 40% was courses, packs, books, libraries, royalties, all that kind of stuff. So where do you stand now with your income streams? Is it still similar, or has it changed?
Man, well, I'd be lying if I said that this has not been a tough year financially.
Ooh, 23?
23 in particular has been a very strange year. But this, I think it's a perfect time to talk about this because why not? Let's pull back the curtain and talk about what it's really like. There's ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. This year in particular was the complete opposite of 2022. 2022 was actually the highest grossing year I've ever had. Six-figure income through video game music. Super cool. It was the launch of Video Game Music Alliance. But anytime you start a new business, there's a ton of expenses. There's a ton of cash flow required. Mm-hmm. And new businesses eat money for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Yeah. It just needs money to fund it, to build team members and the marketing and advertising, all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
So good news is here we are 2 years later, and as of last month, in November of 2023, Video Game Music Alliance is officially profitable. It took 2 years,
boy.
which is
Wow.
that's pretty average. You know, most new businesses, it takes about 3 years to become profitable. Thankfully, we're never in debt, but we were able to kind of break even for now about 23 months or so. But now coming up on 2024, I'm very excited that it's finally profitable, and we have a pretty sizable membership now, somewhere around 70 members active. Super cool stories there. And we're finally at the place where we have some success stories. So it kind of, word of mouth kind of preaches for itself because people want to recommend their friends to come in and all that kind of stuff. But just kind of going back to your question, 2023 in particular, as a music composer, so the active side, I don't think I wrote a single custom music track for about 9 months, which is very uncharacteristic for my career. I've usually been pretty busy with work. And I don't know if this had anything to do with COVID. I don't know if it had anything to do with writer strikes. I don't know if it had anything to do with just the global marketplace shifting. I don't know. But what really happened from my perspective is I had a lot of potential projects on the docket. I mean, like 5 or 6 strong maybes, people who were trying to make decisions with publishers, trying to make decisions with their teams and everything. And one by one, they fell. And it was never a dire situation, but it was a very rude awakening.
You mean they didn't get the gig or they fell out of VGM, or what are you talking?
Well, I'm talking about the custom music projects. So either these potential clients went with somebody else, even though I had a very strong favor, whatever. Let's just call it a short list. I was one of a few people in the pitching process. They went a different direction. Or at the end of the day, like the project fell apart or whatever, or it's been delayed. But there is one project in particular that finally, after many months of negotiating, we finally landed on a deal, and it actually turns into a 2-year contract for a video game soundtrack. And I've never done a 2-year contract before. I've done a lot of freelancing, which is essentially we'll pay you based on the minutes of music you release us. But instead, this was like an upfront, hey, let's go ahead and plan it out for the whole duration of the development process, and we will just split the payment up. In this case, very strange, but bi-monthly payments, so every other month.
Now, was this with a VGM member or just you? This was just one of yours?
So this is just my personal active music career, right, as a composer. But I share all that because I think it's really healthy to think about active versus passive income. That's something I talk about a lot with our members, because kind of zoom out to the macro view. I have 5 kids. Have a wife and 5 kids, and about to have our 6th kid. Yes, we have our next kid coming next month. And with that, I want you to try to understand the pressure of the financial pressure of we're a single income family. My dear wife takes care of kids, and she does homeschool. And for the probably since we last talked, there was a good 12 months where I actually worked outside the home, had a music studio in our local downtown area. Absolutely loved it. That was a dream come true, because finally I was at a financial place where I could do that, and I could hire an assistant, starting to build a team. Really cool experience. But
so you had a whole other business of music production going on as well.
Right.
Which is active income, you know.
Exactly. Working for clients. And this is right when we were starting Video Game Music Alliance, the education site and everything. And then all of a sudden we found out we're pregnant again. And it was the pressure, it was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back. And, you know, all the children up to this point, anytime you get pregnant, there's these decisions you have to make. And we had finally hit the point where we're maxed out in our house size, we're maxed out in our car size, we're maxed out we think in our budget. And then all of a sudden I had to make a ton of decisions really quickly. And so the decision was, okay, I need to move the studio back home, working back from home. Made that switch within a month, which was crazy, going from those two extremes, and then figuring out how to work from home with homeschool kids and how to start to get ready for this pregnancy journey. And because we had done this before, I knew that it was very important for me that I would take off 6 to 8 weeks around the time of the birth, which is coming up next month. And so all of that on top of barely having any active music income for up to, the 6 months up to that point, it was just a crazy time of decision making. But here's the big but behind all of that. This is where passive income saved my butt. Mm-hmm. It saved me. Absolutely. Things like video game music pack sales. Mm-hmm. They kept the bills paid. Things like the Video Game Music Alliance, a membership site. Granted, mm-hmm. it wasn't profitable, but at least paid the bills. It kept everything afloat. Things like book sales, things like licensing on royalty sites, whatever. And I think the lion's share of it was the video game music packs, and still is. This is something I'm very vocal about. Mm-hmm. And I encourage anyone in the music space who wants to get into video games, that's the best place to start, because it has everything to do with your ability to make a product and then sell it. And you can literally sell it the same day you make it.
Right.
You can get into DMs with game developers, shoot a coupon, you put a 50% coupon, because you control your own little marketplace, specifically with one of the sites called itch.io. You can literally upload it and it's there. There's no review process. There's no staff that has to review it. You just put it up. You set your own price. You can set your own coupons. It's like your own little miniature website. And then you connect it. And I think Itch only takes 3%. It's so small. It's crazy.
Wow.
Versus,
and these are usually independent game developers, probably like people at home that are developing games for apps and things like that mainly.
Exactly.
Or are they developing console as well, or PC, or what are they developing?
All of the above, anything, everything. There's tens of thousands of these people looking every day to buy stuff, to buy music. And really, what I've learned over these last couple of years is these game developers, they're independent game developers, indie, they usually only have a budget of something like $50 to $100 to spend on assets, because they're not expecting to make a lot of money from this. This is usually their first game. They're a solo game developer, and that's a big key factor. They're people who, like you said, they're working from home. They're doing this as a side gig. They have a 9-to-5 somewhere else. This is a passion project they've been working on for a couple years, and now they want to put it on Steam, right, for PC. Or they want to put it on the big consoles. But in order to do that, they typically have to have a publisher. So they need a demo. They need a proof of concept. And so having really high quality music to slap in there is so important, because it's going to make them stand out, even if the art's not great, even if the animation is not great, and what have you.
So the people buying your video game, your music packs on itch.io and different places like this, these are developers of video games. They are usually independent people. They may or may not have another job where they're very much like YouTubers. They're very much like a professional YouTuber who is either doing it as a full-time gig or doing it as a part-time gig. And those YouTubers go to stock music libraries to find music for their YouTubes, or they go to those same libraries for video clips. They go to some same libraries for photos, so that they can intersperse them into their videos. And these video game developers that you serve are looking for music to go behind their boss battles, their whatever scenes that are going on in their games, and they're looking and so they go to itch.io or some of these other places. We'll talk about those in a minute. I want to talk about those a little bit later. But so that's music pack sales and VGM. We're going to talk about VGM separately. I want to talk about continue to go through real quick about your passive incomes that come in, mostly pack sales and your VGM community. Right?
Yep, those are the two big ones. And there's some other little ancillary things.
Any
like
Spotify sales, DSP sales at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Spotify continues to increase because I keep writing for soundtracks and I keep outputting things. And that's been a nice steady few $100 or so per month, which is, everything adds up, right? It's never the one bucket. It's all the things combined.
Are there any back-end royalties from any of this gaming music that you do for things, or is it mostly upfront royalties?
It's all upfront.
All up front,
yep,
okay.
Because you're not giving. That's our big conversation from last time. That hasn't changed, shockingly.
Right. Yeah.
You know how this stuff. The legislation takes forever to catch up.
Gotcha. courses, you also offer courses, which we will,
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about today. If not, it's on your site and all those courses are there. Those still bring in income for you and things like that.
Yes,
Passive
and
income?
I put that under the umbrella of VGMA, the Video Game Music Alliance.
Okay, we'll get back to that then.
Yeah.
And then your book. You have a book as well that you sell. So
Yep.
there it is right there.
Family First Composer, still there.
Say that again.
Family First Composer.
Family First Composer is Stephen's book, so you might want to look at that. I'll have all the links down in the description below as usual. All right, so let's talk about the VGM for just a minute. Tell me, first of all, why it was not profitable. Is it because you didn't have enough people in? And let's explain what the VGM is first.
Sure. So,
Because
yeah, I'm here to clarify. So VGMA stands for Video Game Music Alliance. So it is a group. We like to call it our headline basically is earn your first dollar in video game music today. So that's the big push is as soon as you join, we're going to help you actually figure out what does it mean to put some music online and sell it immediately. Let's get a quick win. Sure. But it's also what we consider the number one community to level up as a video game music composer. Because so often in the music community space, or in the music composer space, everyone is isolated. They're all trying to do this. They're all trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really talented composers out there who want to write for video games, but they have absolutely no clue how to talk to a game developer or how to strike the conversation or what to even offer or sell or any of that. So by gathering as a community, we have an online membership where essentially every day, think of it like a Facebook group, but it's a highly curated Facebook group in the sense that we actually use a platform called Mighty Networks, which I love because it also has a mobile app.
I use that now too.
I love it. It's a branded mobile app. It's our own unique platform. And inside there, yes, we have really cool courses. We have a 3-year, what we call the 3-year career Kickstarter, which is literally a 3-year guide that every single week as a community, we have exercises that are going to take you the next baby step along the journey. And this covers all what I consider the 4 topics, the 4 pillars, which are the video game music composition, production, technology, and business, which are the 4 things you have to succeed in this industry. You have to have the skill sets, but you also have to build the business. And so we try to keep it extremely holistic. And it's not just about being the best game composer you can be. It's about being the best person you can be. It's about self-development habits. It's about reading books. It's about taking care of your body. It's about having positive thoughts. It's about treating others with respect. It's the whole thing. Because so often we try to isolate. We try to say, oh, I'm going to go become a game composer. But what does that even mean? So we have the training components, which is the courses, which is the daily conversations and music feedback and all of those little bonuses in there. But there's the other side, which is we have monthly Q&A calls with each other, face-to-face like this, the best we can. It's a global marketplace, right?
Sure.
We jump on Zoom like this, and we have these amazing conversations with one another, and we help people with very specific problems. Hey, I'm struggling with this. I finally made a game music pack and no one's buying it. Can you guys help me? We take a look at it and we all actually give real advice that's super helpful. Or, hey, I have this music track. Client doesn't like it. I don't know how to fix it. Or I'm working on a contract with a client. How much do I charge? I'm not comfortable charging this much. Like just the real practical stuff that people are dealing with. We get to tackle it together, and that's the whole point. Is we're all in very different stages of our careers. Some that are they have a storied career. They've been doing this for years, and some that are complete beginners. And what's cool about that is everyone can pull from each other's experience. And there is no right or wrong path, but there are clues. Success leaves clues. And that's the final piece to it all is we also have quarterly, so every 3 months, we have a chat with a master composer, so what we consider an A-list video game.
Didn't you have
composer.
Jeff Rona on?
We've had, I don't know, 15 guests now. Pretty insane. Just about every big name you can think of, from David Wise, the Donkey Kong Country series, to Penko Kuneva and the Gears of War series, and just everyone in between. It's been unbelievable. And the purpose behind that is we're not only just getting inspired because we get to talk to someone who's done this on a extremely high level, but we get to get in their brains a little bit. How do they talk? How do they think about work? How do they think about writing music? And that's the kind of stuff you just don't get. You can't get from a YouTube video, so to speak.
Right. So I don't know if this is interesting to my crowd or if I'll leave this in, but why was VGM not profitable over the past 2 years as you've made it? What were your issues?
Well, when I say profitable, I mean obviously all of our revenue from our memberships minus expenses. So that equals zero for a long time. So our expenses are people. So we have 2 team members besides myself that are working around the clock to make it all happen. There's a whole lot of content that has to be created. Got to pay for that.
You're talking about YouTube content?
No. So we have our social media marketing. We have all of our courses that are brand new. We have to film and cut and edit all of that. And then we have all of the admin side behind it and all of what we call our onboarding process. So it's not just like a Facebook group. You jump in, it's like, okay, now what? No,
and
we have
courses are
dedicated
inside.
people. Exactly. We have dedicated people to help the onboarding process to be an incredible experience, to actually make sure you're doing the work, that they're checking the assignments. So it's like a little mini school.
Yeah,
it's not a certification, but that's the whole point. We want this to be an incredible experience for everybody.
Gotcha.
So it costs money
that makes
to
more
do
sense.
that.
It takes a whole village sometimes, and especially with someone as busy as you are. And I should really hire more people, but I don't, and so I end up doing everything myself. But I've tried. So, okay, well, very good. I'm glad it's getting profitable now, and that's great. And we will have more information about that towards the end of the video and in the description below on how you can be part of the VGMA. And we've got deals for you down there and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that as we go. So I think that talks about your passive income, and you've talked about your active work has been, you finally got the job you were wanting as far as a client. Will that keep you busy enough, that one job, as far as the composing side?
That one job covers about 40% of my expenses. Now, my expenses as a business are very high, and I acknowledge that because I have a team I have to pay. We're running multiple sites. We're doing multiple platforms. It's a lot, way more than the average composer would ever need. But that's my thing. I'm trying to build multiple things at the same time. But for that reason, I think for the average composer, yes. For the average, person with 2 kids, sure, that's fine. But obviously my expenses are higher with a large family, single income. There's a lot going on, building businesses. So with that, yes, it's higher, but it does cover about 40%. And as of right now, since VGMA is profitable, it's probably covering 30 or 40% on top of the original 40%. So there's only remaining 20, 30% that is unaccounted for the next 2 years, and it's only going to grow. And so that's where the VGM packs come into play, which that is pretty much filling the gap. And then as possible, I'm taking on some other active gigs as well. Sure. But I'm now entering a season that I'm going to be pausing for a couple months. So I'm very grateful that even though the year, from the outside perspective, oh no, Stephen's not writing actively for projects. Yeah, but I am. You know what I mean? It's the roller coaster of what we do. I don't always get paid the minute I write something, right? There's usually a lag in payments. There's a lag in royalties if that's involved, soundtracks, etc. But in general, it all seems to work out.
I'm interested in your break now. How does Stephen Melin? What is a break for Stephen Melin? I mean, is it a break from VGMA and from composing and from everything, or is it just a break from public speaking, or what does a break entail for you?
It means I don't say yes to anything. It means literally no to everything for about 2 months. So personally, I will probably, just besides catching up on sleep because of a newborn, I've planned out for this period of time, I'm going to be doing a lot of studio replacement, like upgrading gear to get ready for that next season. I have an old PC. I call it old. It's from 2017. It was a custom build, but I've now hit the point where I've just maxed it out, and my current game project, it can barely handle it. And I'm now doing a whole lot of live streaming, and live streaming itself takes up a lot of CPU and RAM. and you do that on top of maxing out a VEP session, so Vienna Ensemble Pro, maxed out with hundreds of instruments, trying to run a soundtrack at the highest level, it just blows up. Yeah. So I'm at that point where, okay, it's time, set some funds aside. And so that's the big thing, is building a new PC and maybe experimenting with some new live stream setups and things like that. That's fun for me. And I don't get to do that in my normal schedule because that is weeks of experimenting.
Do you have what's going to be happening with VGMA during that time?
So this is the beauty of having a team. So I've spent 2 years building up the team to operate without me. Cool. Now, part of that is we record a lot of content months and months in advance. So we've already created everything that's going to be releasing over the next 3 to 6 months anyway. And then I'll jump back in and make some more. And that YouTube really trained me to do that. Yeah. It trained me how to create bulk content. So literally have a shoot day and go record.
That's true.
We usually do about 13 videos in a day, which sounds insane, and it is. But the reason it works is because it's all planned out. All the resources are there. The cameras are set up. I don't want to do that more than once. And that way, so every 3 months, we have a shoot day and try to knock out. Right. That way there's a week. There's one video per week. That's how it boils out.
Well, that's great. That's a great update for where you are and what is happening right now. Here's the next piece of this video that I want to talk to you about, and that is video game music versus other non-exclusive music. And I'm only saying this is because this is very selfish of me to ask, just because I'm trying to figure out, as a music income channel and as a music income person, is it possible to work in VGM and also work in some of these other things that we talk about on this channel? So I want to kind of talk about VGM versus other non-exclusive music, and only in the fact as, for instance, is video game music non-exclusive? Or is it sometimes exclusive and not?
So there's two different types of music licensing with video games. Let's put it that way. You have the non-exclusive license, where it's inside a video game music pack sold on one of these 4 major marketplaces: Itch, Unreal, Unity, and Game Dev Market. So these are the big places. So a game developer will go there, they'll buy it alongside tens of thousands of others. So in my case, my best-selling pack, Game Music Treasury, has sold over 18,000 times. So theoretically, that music could appear in over 18,000 games. And I've encountered many of them in the wild, and it's always a weird experience because I'm like, I recognize that. Oh wait, So there's that. There's always that. That's the only downside to paying a cheap price for a license, is that other people will use it. But I always encourage game developers to use it in a creative way, and I try to provide the files that allows them to do that. That way they can mix and match things and maybe play around with it. Whatever, it's their game. On the other side, you have the exclusive license. I'm sure you talk about that quite a bit here. Similar to film and TV, etc., minus the royalties, right? It's a work-for-hire agreement, and essentially you're giving away
like
all
the one
rights.
You just signed.
Exactly. Giving away all the rights to the game development team. I write a lot of music, 60, 80 minutes of music, whatever it ends up being, for this whole soundtrack over the course of several years. And I always like to negotiate to keep the rights for the purpose of streaming, because that makes its own fair share of money down the line. And so whenever possible, we do that. Whenever there's a publisher involved, they typically do not allow the composer to keep the rights for streaming. But thankfully, this team does not have a publisher. They had a publisher on the last game, and now they don't. And that was one of the sticky points. I wasn't going to die on that hill, but I certainly asked.
So what does that give you to keep the rights? What does that mean to you if they're paying you up front for it?
Yeah, it means that I can put it on Spotify, Apple Music, etc.
Oh, I got you.
In perpetuity, collect a couple extra $100, especially if the game gets bigger. And the last game got pretty big.
But probably not YouTube.
What do you mean? Oh, YouTube Music?
Well, YouTube music, but not YouTube channels. that might collect content ID? We're going to get to content. We're moving towards content ID here in a minute. So I'm going to go through several things, and then we're going to really talk about content ID and gaming because that's one of the things that I want to really kind of find out about and or confirm with you. That this is going to lead us to the next question. What about video game? And let's say your video game, you and other video game members, do they also put their video game on like libraries, non-exclusive libraries as well? The non-exclusive stuff they put on itch, do they also put on Palm 5 and other places?
Well, if you had asked me 2 years ago, if you go back to our video, I probably said, yeah, go ahead, put it everywhere.
Yeah, you did.
So here's where I've landed on this.
Yeah.
There is no legal reason why you can't do that. And I get this question constantly. I should probably just go ahead and make a dang video about it. Maybe this will be the video. I'll just point people to this, okay? There is no legal reason why you can't do that. It's gray territory because legally, you absolutely can. I am the right holder of this music. I wrote it. I can sell it on all these different marketplaces. And if you read the terms and conditions for each marketplace, they're not claiming to have ownership of it. They're claiming that I have waived that, basically, just to say that I am the original owner, copyright holder, etc. Right? But here's where it gets sticky. Countless times over the last several years, I've had game developers reach out. Hey, I purchased your music. I tried putting it on YouTube and it got flagged. And now the video is being held, or it's being demonetized, or it's a content ID strike. And
claim.
Even the claim, yeah, right. They're not losing money,
anymore.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's been claimed. So for that reason, here's where it gets ugly. That's the developer, right? That's their video. They're trying to market their own game. They bought my thing to use it to promote their game. But what's even worse is when a player of the game, let's say the game releases, now the player's doing streaming. They're doing Twitch. They're doing YouTube, or they're trying to do a review of the video, which is the key way that games get their marketing. That's
and
how
the way
people
that
buy
that
games.
person makes money
Exactly.
And
because I released music that was, let's just call it, on Pond 5 and on itch.io, now every single time that track plays, Content ID is going to find it because it was on Pond 5 or because it was on any of these other numbers of sites. And the worst of all is if it's already been registered with a PRO, BMI, ASCAP, because they actually keep track of things. So here's what I've decided. I'm not going to tell people what to do about this, but just know the implications. To me, it is not worth smearing the waters and making it a difficult experience for the end user. I want to make it the most seamless experience. So what I've done is I've actually gone back over these last couple years and I've removed every track that is present in my game music packs off everything else. They are only in that one spot. And that was annoying because I had to go back 10 years because some of these tracks are a little bit older and had to pull them from placements of things and whatever. So everything's been tidied up, it's been cleaned up, and I have not had a single claim instance since then. And so now I do proudly make that part of the marketing of the packs is this is YouTube safe, this is Twitch safe. You can use this and you will not get flagged. But in the rare occasion you are, because unfortunately, because my music has now reached a large audience, there are the occasional scam artist who will actually upload my music underneath their name and claim it as their own, and that is the reason that things get flagged, and I have to go track them down. I've had to do that a couple times. But at the end of the day, in the rare case that this kind of thing happens, a claim happens, that's my promise to my customers is I'm going to take care of that. You don't have to worry about it. And I don't know if anyone else does that or cares to do that.
Well, does that have anything to do, though, with putting it on Pond 5? Because if they put it on Pond 5, the problem was not, I don't know if it's Pond 5 or Motion Array or whoever that they put it up there. I thought the problem would be Identify or someplace that's collecting Content ID. And because if I don't put a song on Identify, then there is no listening, there is no Content ID or YouTube monetization happening on that song because it's not being, as far as I know, claimed. It can't be claimed because there might be other people on YouTube using that song, but they're not going to get claims either because it's not in a Content ID service. Is that the way it is? Because if I put stuff out, I put all my stuff in Content ID just because it's a big money maker for me off of licensed music and YouTube music. But if I didn't, then no one would get claims, including those people using it in a game, because Identify, which is the company I use, is searching YouTube for people using that thing. But Pond5 is not, and Motion Array is not. They are just paying you as people use it for their YouTube videos. Now, the only thing that I could think is that those people using it for their YouTube videos then claim that that's theirs. But I don't know. This is it's where it gets kind of fuzzy and gray to me, where I'm trying to figure it out.
In general, in business, I try not to operate in the gray.
Yeah.
Sometimes you kind of have to. But that is an area that I saw was only creating problems and was losing money, not gaining money. Because whatever services it was or wasn't on, and I had my music spread across several things, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, wasn't making enough to bother with.
Yeah, it just wasn't. And for me, I'd rather just keep it clean cut anyway. I want to be able to give that promise to customers that, hey, you don't have to worry about this getting flagged. And if it is, I'll take care of it.
So Content ID is the big one. So I see what your point is. Your point is, why even bother? Our focus is on video games and video game stores, not Pond5 and Motion Array. If people are looking there for video games, music, they're either not smart, they're not looking in the right place, probably. Yeah. But okay, well, that explains that. So video game music makers are really focusing pretty much directly on certain libraries. And so do you feel comfortable identifying the libraries on this video, or is that something you'd rather say for your course or something like that?
Oh, I will say all the secrets to everybody.
Well,
I'm all about.
In your courses, you teach how to work with all of these libraries and things like that. So tell us what the main ones are these days.
Yes, so there are 4 big ones, and they've been the same this whole time. The biggest of all, I would argue, is Unity. So the Unity Asset Store, because it's a Unity game engine, and that's what most games are made on these days. There's the Unreal Marketplace because of the Unreal Engine by Epic Games. Then you have the lesser known ones, itch.io, which is a completely free marketplace to use because they only take like 3%. Not free, but you know what I mean. And then Game Dev Market. And a couple years ago, I was a little bit more excited about Game Dev Market than I am now, just because just talking with our members and everything, very few people make any sales on there. And I think they've recently had a website change where you can't you can't include images or videos or anything that would help you sell. It's very bizarre. It has to be text-based, and that's just really hard to sell anything these days.
Yeah.
You can have like your hero image, and that's it, and then talk about it. But we're selling music. We're not. How do you sell that without with just words? I don't understand. But anyway, they've changed their formatting, and it just does not help. But curiously, last year, the only reason I'm still part of Game Dev Market is because last year I had a few small packs on there. I had 6 small packs versus my 1 large pack, which has over 500 tracks. And these small ones, which have about 12 tracks each, little albums, I was approached by the site manager of Game Dev Market. And he said, hey, we're doing a deal with Humble Bundle, which is the big site that is basically every month they're partnering a lot. It's basically it's a charity site / it's a business. So what they're doing is they bundle a bunch of things together. So it could be books, or it could be video games, or it could be albums. But in this case, they wanted to do video game music packs, specifically from Game Dev Market. And so what they did is they pulled together about 20, 25, something like that, packs from Game Dev Market. And then they have their different tiers that you can donate, whatever. That sucker sold $400,000.
Wow.
Insane. Now, I'm not super happy looking back at my my rate. My percentage of compensation was quite low. Yeah. I should have asked for way more because my packs ultimately were the ones I believe that actually sold it because they only offered my packs at the highest tier. And so everyone went to the highest tier. Whatever. Yeah. It was a very valuable business lesson that I had to learn. But it proved something. Number one, I'm very happy for the exposure because that landed an additional 16,000 sales for my pack that I can put on there, right? But it taught me something very valuable, that everyone in the game dev space will pay $25 to have access to really high quality music, even if it's non-exclusive. Because it's their first game, they're not trying to make money off of it. They're just trying to get something out there. And there are tens of thousands of these people. So it just proved that the market is ripe for this, but it also proved that there is great value. It actually taught me something that has become the crux of my business now. So I'm very thankful for it. So thank you. Thank you, Game Dev Market, for believing in me. I'm not bitter. I really am not. It's a funny story. And what it taught me was that from a marketing perspective, that people are way more willing to invest in a small music pack because it is highly curated to their specific genre, their specific niche, their specific needs, versus a giant blob of tracks that there's no way they're going to go listen to 500 tracks. There's no way that they can't wrap their minds around how much music that is. That's over 14 hours of music. Who has the ability when they're trying to buy something quickly? It doesn't solve any problems. And what that exposed to me was, oh man, I got to rethink this. And so a large portion of 2023, working with my assistant, it took forever, but we finally did it just in time for Black Friday. That was the goal. We have to have this thing released by Black Friday. So we did all new artwork. We did all new descriptions for basically what we did is we created 30 albums, 30 small packs, and each one is highly curated and it solves one specific problem for a very specific type of video game. Then we took all the 30 and we combined them into 5 or 6, I forgot. But either way, I think it's 6 groups of 5, and we created bundles. Okay. And it's at a reduced rate because so basically I think it's buy 5, get 1 free kind of thing, bundles. And then we combined all of them together into one mega bundle. And then when you go to the mega bundle called Game Music Treasury, it's the same pack I've always been selling, right? But no, who cares? No one knows that. No one needs to know that. But the mega, it now visually shows 30 things, 30 packs, and each pack has 12 to 15 tracks inside of it. And then their minds explode, like their brains melt when they see that, and they're like,
"And how much is that treasury sell for?"
The goal is to bump it to $500.
Okay. On all of the markets.
Locked in. Yeah, we're currently locked in that it has to sell at $99 because that's what it has been.
Oh,
but the value proposition is so much higher now, and it's the same dang thing. But the value proposition is, you're getting all of these bundles for one price, and now they can visually see it all broken out. And we've now created a YouTube video for every single one that you visually experience it. Because you click play and you're like, oh my gosh, this keeps going. And you go to the next page. Oh my gosh, it keeps going. And there's 34 of these videos.
But this is all stuff that you've had made for years.
And I have updated it and I've added a bunch of new tracks and whatever to make it all squeaky clean. But that was a big endeavor. But it's already paid off in full. Because last month, I don't even know how much. $15,000 sales, $20,000, something like that. It's working. So there is so much merit to taking this seriously and treating every game developer like a person. I know that sounds cliche, but we are in a business. I know we're trying to sell as many as possible, but no. Think about the individual person. What is their experience? They only have $50 in their pocket, and they really want their first game to matter because they're trying to sell this. They're trying to grow an audience. They're trying to prove to themselves they can do this as a career. And they need the music today. They can't work with a composer and wait 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months and hope that it solves the problem and have to pay a bunch of money for it. Like, you got to think from their perspective. And as soon as you do that, now I made something that actually solves the problems that they vocalized. I've just gone down through the reviews I have a couple years worth of reviews and emails I can solve that. Now I just have to vocalize it and put it in a very clean sales description and all that. So I'm very proud of what it's become and where we're headed. But it has clearly made a very big splash, and I'm very excited about the future of it.
So you teach your students how to do all of this too in the course, and all of your courses go into detail about different elements, I'm sure, on all your pillars that you talked about. Obviously, we talked about your percentages. You're not, and I'm not full-time. I don't make full-time music off my compositions, which would probably be my dream, I think. Although every time I think about that, I think I'd probably still want to do YouTubes, and I'd still want to do other things. I think those people who say, oh, I want to make a full-time income making game music for these developers. Do you know, besides the people who are like the pros, how many people do you run into that are full-time game music developers or composers these days?
It's a very small percentage.
Anybody in your group and probably not even you to some extent. I mean, right?
Well, how are you defining full-time? What do you mean?
You don't have any other job. You're not doing anything else for income other than writing every day and getting paid from clients / packs and things like that.
That's a yes and a no all at the same time. Yes, I would say yes, I am a full-time composer, but because of my large family and single income and all of that, I have to earn more. And I prefer to spend my time building passive income sources so that 5 years from now, that's the lion's share. That is the 80%.
Sure.
But I just love writing music. And so that is something that I think we have culturally, in the American culture, I'll specifically say, I think we have an upside down understanding of what a career can be and what it should be. So for me, my goal is to work because I want to, not because I have to. Right. If that makes sense. And so the goal is not to load up my schedule with 5 AAA projects, because that's unmanageable and that destroys my family life, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think it from the end backwards, that what do I actually want? Yes, I want to hit a certain financial figure, but beyond that, what do I actually want in my life? Well, I want to write music, but it doesn't need to be the only thing I do. I'm not a happy person when that's all I do. I love writing music, but really, my capacity is somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes of music per week is a very sweet spot for me. My schedule is organized, and this is the book, by the way, if anyone wants to read it. I just talk about how I organize my life to be a family first composer, meaning I only work 4 days a week. I only work for about 6 hours a day. And that's what I choose to do. And then I have to figure out the back end. Okay, how do we make that work financially?
How does that make us money?
And that's what I do. That's why I invest about half of my time in passive income building, and then the other half in the active scoring. And just my personality type is I think a pretty even split between creative artist kind of brain, where I want to make the art, but the other side is I just want to build businesses. I love that side of things, which is not for everybody. I get that. So for me, I always want to be creating something, and I always want to be building something. Two very different sides of the brain, different.
Well, also you have a heart of a teacher, so you're also teaching so much, and I'm the same way. Even though, if I had a bumper sticker on the back of my car, it would say I'd rather be composing, but I don't. I still can't. Even if I could compose however many hours I wanted to work a day, let's say 4 hours a day, I would still do other things. I just get I have too many ideas. People say you're, like squirrel. I thought, I could do this. I'll get some thought, and then I'll have an idea for a video, or I'll have an idea for a project I want to do, or I'll just go to Disney or something that I'll want to do that day. And even though I love composing, I think the idea of being a full-time composer, it's either a myth for most people, or you better be careful what you wish for, because then composing becomes a job that you are a slave to, just like producing did for me, because you get no time to do anything else, because that's got to pay all the bills. And then you have to put all the pressure on your composing, and then you will learn to hate composing, or anything that you loved previously that now you got into. And if you don't do it, you won't get the bills paid, and that makes it not as fun.
This is specifically why I preach the gospel of doing package deals, meaning this current soundtrack I'm working on, I have 2 years to do it. I could do it all next month.
Yeah.
If I just did nothing else, I could do it in a month. It's not going to be the greatest quality, but for the and just the quality of my life, I'm going to do about a track a month. That keeps me in check. That allows me to do lots of revisions and like experiment and have fun with it. But it's also not going to take all my time. It's going to take maybe a quarter of my work time for the month. And that's already pocketed away. And then another quarter of my month is I'm going to be investing in my members. I'm going to be having DMs with them. I'm going to be answering questions. I don't even have to. I pay people to do this. So I get to. It's a, I've had a mindset shift, I think, over the last year of get to have to get to, right? I don't have to run these businesses. I don't have to write music for a living. There's a million other things I could be doing, but I get to. And I want to keep my life in a healthy balance at all times. So it's important for me in this stage of life, especially with young kids, I'm going to spend the bulk of my life with them. I just am.
Yeah.
And that's not normal. And I know that. But in order to make that happen and to really invest in my kids, that means I have to have set work hours. And then from there, when I come to work, I better know what the heck I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm a really big, we don't have to go too much into this, but I'm really big on basically having one task to do per day. And then if some other things come up, cool. I try to bake in that margin so that I can really be invested in everything that I'm doing. So if I know I'm going to write one piece of music today, or I really don't even do that. I like to do half a piece of music a day. That's a totally different subject for another day, but essentially I do the first half today, the second half tomorrow.
I call it the assembly line version of writing. I'll start something. As long as I've started it, good. Move it, and I'll bring in something else that I maybe need to add to or something like that. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm always better on day 2 than day 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Always.
And it sounds better the second day. You're like, oh, that sounds bad as I thought it was.
Yeah. So just things like that, just prioritizing the right things in my life. And there was an amazing book I read called Atomic Habits.
Say that again. Atomic what?
Atomic Habits. And the whole thing is just about what are the tiniest level of habits in your life, the keystone habits that everything else revolves from. Like making your bed first thing in the morning. It's amazing how your entire day will be great if you do that, because you've now set your morning up for success, that first hour, starting your morning with exercise, starting with journaling and meditation and prayer, whatever. There are certain keystone habits. So when you go to work, what's the first thing you do? Are you checking email? Are you responding to fires? Or are you creating something as a creative person? So these are the types of things, right? You create these little bitty habits that literally control your life. Yeah. They control the destiny that you're going in, because if you can tackle the very beginnings of your week, the beginning of your day, the beginning of your work day, the beginning of your time with family, like these things steer the ship for everything that follows. That way in 5 years, you don't wake up and say, what happened? Why am I worse off? Well, because you weren't intentional.
I take it you bake all of this into your courses as far as, I talk about multiple incomes here on this channel. It's my mantra. I don't think you can make one music income and make a life. And if you do, you'll be sick of that soon. And so do you bake that into VGMA? Do you guys talk about having other jobs besides video game music and stuff like that?
No, we say the opposite.
Really?
I'm not saying that you only have to do video game music, but our goal is to show that it is possible, and it is possible to do it in a healthy, holistic way.
Okay.
But to your point, there's two sides. There's the passive income side and there's the active income side. Some people thrive in one over the other. Some people need to do both. Yeah. I'm someone that needs to do both because the flexibility it provides. But I've tried seasons of life of doing one only, where I'm only writing on custom soundtracks, and I get miserable. Because I'm like, something's missing. I need to be teaching. I need to be pouring into other people. I need the community. I need to be writing for myself, making some art that's not this. But the other side is, if I only do that, then I'm kind of aimless, and I'm wondering, and I don't have any inspiration.
Yep.
So everyone needs to find that balance for themselves. And that's what we really push is we're going to find that balance together because we're just going to keep writing. We're going to do a lot of work together. And by the end of this, you're going to have a very clear understanding. First of all, is the video game industry even for you? And I hope if it's not, that you can leave immediately because you found out. And yay, that's a win, right? Or on the other side, you're going to come to realize, oh, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Not everyone wants what I have to offer. And you start to learn a lot about yourself when you dive into that.
Your mileage may vary.
Exactly.
Basically.
But we've had some really cool success stories. Something I actually wanted to offer to your audience. We just came up with a free case study. And the case study is we talk about how we helped one of our members get his monthly revenue to $10,000 plus per month as a video game composer, specifically with video game music. He's mostly active. I'd say it's about 80% active, 20% passive through game music packs. And in his case, the game music packs actually led to the active work. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
Right.
And that is an ongoing conversation. I just, for whatever reason, can't get people to believe. And I'll show these numbers and I show these stats and I'm like, do it. What are you doing? And they keep complaining. Oh, I'm not making any money from video game music. Have you made your pack yet? Have you sold it yet? Are you
one of the hardest things to convince people to do to make music income is to make music.
So true.
They ask me, I don't understand it. I put 5 songs up on Pond 5 and I'm not making any money. I'm like, how many songs do you have? 5. And I'm like, that's great. I mean, maybe that's a good accomplishment for you, but that is not going to make you a lot of it, if any, money. I mean, you're like throwing a pebble in the ocean. You got to roll those boulders and you got to put all those rocks. I mean, you got to, I don't know, that was a terrible analogy, but you know what I'm saying? You've got to do the work and you've got to make music. And, but here's something that I want to ask you, and I'll put the link down to your case study as well below. Is it live? Is it on YouTube or something?
It's ready to go.
Okay, we'll put that down below as well.
It's a short PDF and it's super cool.
Nice. We'll put that down below as well. And, one of the last questions I want to ask is there a side of you as a composer that composes for no one other than you? Do you ever sit down to compose with no job in mind?
No. And I think it's okay. I'm a crafts person. There is a time and place for that. So, for example, I have 5 meditation albums on Spotify, YouTube, etc. I was actually just talking to a friend this morning about it, just kind of laughing about it. I have an entire mini album, so over 100 something tracks worth of video game piano covers. That's how I got started in music, by the way. Mm-hmm. And that was how I got started on YouTube originally, made albums doing that. Those were great side projects and actually were probably the key to my education of how to write for video games, because I just studied the greats and I literally figured out how to play them at a high level because I was a piano performance degree major. And that was super fun. That's not something I do much anymore, but that was all for fun. That was all for pleasure. And ultimately, what's difficult is having a career in the arts. It's usually your passion. It's usually your hobby. It's the thing you love doing. And then you figure out how to monetize it so you can leave all the other jobs you've had. But now you have to strike this balance. That's why the balance is everything. That's why I'm taking 2 months off, because I don't want to burn out. And I know what burnout feels like. You don't want to get up in the morning. You don't want to write music because you feel like you're stuck, like you created a new prison for yourself. So for me, to prevent the prison is you have to zoom out and look at your life as a whole. What are your keystone habits? And we actually, our next course that we're releasing as part of VGMA, we're releasing in January. It's 90 days to your pro composer workflow. And I'm not even trying to promote that necessarily. I'm just trying to share that this is what we talk about, that the first lesson in there is all about what are your annual, and we have to work our way backwards. Start big. What are your annual habits as a person and then as a business? Your annual habits. What are your quarterly habits? your monthly, your weekly, and your daily. And these, you can't separate them, right?
Yeah.
You have to have your work time and you have to write your music and work with clients, but you just can't separate it. Like, I don't know how to talk about that and not talk about, you got to have a budget. You have to have a monthly budget. If you're married, you need to have a budget with your spouse, right? Like the simplest little things. You need to spend time with your kids, right? You need to follow up with past clients. You need to have a monthly or a quarterly audit of your analytics if you're doing content online. Like these little things that need to become the rhythms that set your lifestyle. And then if you start with the macro in mind, like where's the end goal? Work your way backwards. It doesn't make it easy. It just makes it clear. I believe we can do anything as long as it's clear. We can work any plan, right? If I want to be in shape, just tell me the plan, right? If you want to go make a 6-figure income this year, give me a plan.
Yeah.
But you have to work the plan. You have to actually do the thing. So we're big on that.
Well, that's really interesting. I always get a little sad because I'm moving completely in the other direction. I am getting to the point where if I'm not creating something, I am just like creating because I want to create something, then I am moving away from where I want to be. Because, but then again, my whole last 25 years has been 100%, well, not 100%, but mostly, even if I was writing something I liked, it was for a client. It was for a job. It was for that. And so I have just completely burned myself out on writing for clients. Even writing to brief right now for Sync or for other libraries I'm in is very difficult because I just want to create from scratch with my zero template. Are you a zero template guy or a big template guy? I think you're last time we talked, I think we talked about template and in our composing interview. I can't remember where you were 2 years ago.
I think I'm both at the same time. Depends on the project. Because right now I'm working on a game soundtrack. I had to build the template to start, but now obviously I've created a sound world that I have to stay within. So now for 2 years, every time I work on this game, it has to be within this sound template. But that is the exact reason why I must have other outlets as well to start from scratch. And that's I have the live composing show, taking a pause right now, but that has been a weekly thing for 2 years where I pull up either a personal project or not personal, but when I'm writing pitches and demos for people, I'll showcase that. When I'm working actively on a game soundtrack that I have permission to show, I'll show that and show people live. Or if I'm writing for a sample library demo or what have you, right? Or if there's a big game release, like a couple weeks ago, we had Super Mario RPG. That's a really big game release for Nintendo Switch. And I'm very passionate about that game. And so I pull gameplay clips and I score it. Yeah. And that is now a piece of music that no one has purchased. So that goes, throw it into the game music packs. Right. And you do that long enough, you now have a system. So I'm constantly outputting music that I would consider is just for fun, but that is what goes to the game music packs. I'm monetizing the fun, but I'm also writing it in a way that...
No. I didn't mean are you writing anything and never using it. I mean, are you ever writing something, and you are. It sounds like you are writing something, but it has a use because you are doing a video about it on your live composing, so there's always a use. But I think I am moving in the other direction where I want to create works to be performed live. I want to create works that I just put out and they're totally 100% artistic, and I don't care if anybody likes it or not. I'm going to put up on my Spotify. And now, here's the fun part. I still put them in all the non-exclusive libraries, every single one of them. I mean, I have songs that for no reason make $20 yesterday, a song I wrote for my piano album a couple years back, completely just a artistic piece, and it made $20 off of Pond 5 for why? I mean, why would anybody want that? But they do. People find it and they still want it. But I think I'm moving towards writing for what I want to do and then hoping it finds a home somewhere rather than the other way around, which I know is smarter. But you're also a younger man than me and a business focused man than me, and I get to halfway retire in about 7 years.
Well,
So
there you go.
it's
Yeah.
we're at a different place. But
Totally,
if
totally.
you are a person who, and we preach this all the time on both our channels, if your goal is to make money with music, you better work on music that can make you money, and or find clients that will pay you to make music for them. So. Well, man, this has been great as usual. Your wisdom, and you still pretty much live by the principles in your book. Would you say?
Oh, 100%. The only thing that's changed is the number of kids. And what's funny is I work less than I did in the book.
That
I used
is
to work
great.
5 days a week. Now it's 4. So I'm
That
going
is
in
excellent.
I think, a healthy direction.
Absolutely,
It's
Sure,
a life
for
of
sure.
balance. That's all I could hope for. And like you said earlier, mileage may vary, right?
Yeah.
Every person, I will say that the average member inside VGMA, usually it's a dad of 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
There are certainly women. There are certainly other types of people, whatever. Meaning like different age groups, different ethnicities. Like we're literally representing the entire population of the world. I think we represent like 20 different countries. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The draw of video game music it's for everybody, right? And I love that. But everyone has different financial goals, especially people in different countries, right? They're
Yeah.
even just looking at the currency exchange and everything. Like if you're in Canada right now, you're doing great because you're just like the rate of exchange is so high. Working with just about anybody in the world, and then there's some other countries that they have to really get a lot of work just to pay
the
their bills.
VAT thing in Europe
there's
and
just-
all that stuff.
So, is this still possible? Is this still doable? Yes. And we actually have a very useful resource that is kind of our North Star, and that is every single year, Game Sound Con. So it's a conference in California that they run an annual survey. It's very business-minded. And this survey, they poll something like 1,000 composers and then they have all these segmentations. It's very well done in statistics. But they have different... I want to say there's 4 different, demographics. So what I mean is you have freelance composers, you have in-house composers, but you also have it organized by, are you in the US, like North America, or are you everywhere else in the world? Because those are vastly different stats. But I love that you can still look at that. And even though worldwide is earning roughly 20 to 30% less, it's still a significant income. It's still 60,000 plus for the rest of the world in US dollars, right? So it's still a very livable wage, and that's double in some countries, right? It's very hopeful. The numbers are only going higher. And even right now, the average, I was shocked by this survey, 2023 just released, I guess, October of this year. The latest stats are that the average income for North American freelance composers, which would be me, is $81,000 per year. That's the average. And it goes all the way up to 400,000 plus for the A-list.
And that's just a composer for anything, not necessarily.
That's for games. That is the
just gaming composing.
Work for hire. It's super segmented, which I love. You can really get some accurate stats. That's the work for hire for video games, which is exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's very hopeful to see. Oh my gosh, I'm not making 400K yet, but dang, we're headed in that direction, right? And it's just hopeful to see that this is absolutely a real thing. But at what point,
market is not going anywhere. That market is only increasing. Just like that's why it's so easy to talk about sync licensing and music for YouTube, is because both of those are only growing. They're not shrinking.
Yep.
Netflix is, and all those different places that come online every day that have new material, they got to have music behind all that stuff, and it's only growing. So the people who say, "Oh, it's going to get saturated," it's only growing. And if you don't want to be part of it because you think it's saturated, fine. But
the rest of us will do just fine.
Yeah, exactly. The rest of us will just be right here.
That's right.
Well, man, thank you so much. This has been perfect, and just to pick your brain is always a treat to hear the way you think about things and the healthy way that you think about all of this. And I think everybody, for any composer, not just video game composers, but especially people who are in your in this niche, I think it's you do a great job. I watch your videos all the time. I'll tune in and see you doing stuff all the time and say, "There's my guy." And so I see sometimes I think I saw the Jeff Rona one that you did because I'm a fan of his, and then I've seen some of the others just great work for you and your VGMA. So we'll put all the links down below, and there's good percentage off of joining the Video Game Music Alliance right now. And is everything pretty much in that? All courses are inside of that, or are there courses outside of that to take as well?
So to clarify, we only open VGM Alliance a few times per year. And that is to protect the current members that are inside and to make sure that the onboarding experience is streamlined and it's done really well. Because we want to onboard the new cohort at the same time. We don't want to just have random people joining because it's like, what? Who is this guy, right? We want to make sure that it's like highly curated. That's the whole point. So we only open a few times a year. But what we do have is, in the meantime, if you'd like to join us, but it's not an open period, so it's not an open period right now, you can grab any of our courses. And specifically for your audience, we do have a discount that will probably be down below. You can grab that. You can get inside. But I also want to let you know that anything that you purchase directly from Eric, we will actually discount that amount off of an annual membership when you join us the next time we open.
Very nice.
Because I don't want you to have to buy something twice. That's stupid, right? So if you enroll in these courses, you can go and get some great value out of it. Now, specifically, since we talked so much about it today, we have a course called 7 Steps to Release Your First VGM Pack. So it is literally the 7 steps you walk through. You can go through each of the marketplaces, pick the ones you want to do. You don't have to do all of them. I recommend you do all of them because it's literally the same work. It's the same music, just selling all of them. But I just walk through how I do that and how I've continued to do that. And we even go into the marketing, the branding, and all the things that no one wants to talk about, but is actually the most important thing. Your music's not the most important part of the sales process, I hate to say. It's kind of the minimum requirements, right? Your music must be good. Let's start there. And then once it's good, let's talk about how to actually sell it and package it and all that kind of stuff. Jump into there and use that for the next couple months. And as soon as we open again, you can just shoot me or one of my team members. Just shoot us an invoice, shoot us an email that you've purchased it, and we'll take that off.
Excellent, man. Well, again, thanks very much, and can't wait to talk to you again. And good luck with child number 6 and your time off. And we value your wisdom. Thanks again for being on.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Eric.